everybody. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. I'm here with Aaron Kahane and Salo Serfati from Chariot. They've developed a very cool tool, which I don't know, how exclusive is this? Are you guys out in the world already? Well, yeah, you have tons of customers. But I kind of discovered them. I thought it was very cool. The last time we had a tech company CEO, somebody said, Louis, this was a totally sales conversation. And the truth is that there has been no exchange of money here. It's purely based on me thinking that this was a really awesome product that I wanted to bring to you. So if I'm overexcited, I apologize in advance. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome, Salo. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, let's go right into this. You guys are working really hard because it's a thorny problem on a tool to make giving from donor advised funds easy. I'm presuming that everybody who's on the call knows what a DAF, donor advised fund, is, but could you guys give us a little bit of background on why it's a big problem and why you thought you should try to solve it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess we could even start what a donor advised fund is if people don't know. But quickly, just a donor advised fund is a specialized financial account used for the purpose of charitable giving. You could kind of think of them as like a 401k or an HSA, but specific for charity. It allows donors to make a charitable contribution, receive that immediate tax deduction right away, and then over time recommend grants to charity of their choosing. And while donor advised funds have been in existence for since I think the 1930s, it wasn't really until recently that they've become really popular. So today there's actually over, I think, 2 million Americans with donor advised funds, I think 1.3 million accounts, and over $234 billion sitting in them that are earmarked for charity.
Wow. And some of the biggest, quote unquote, charities, nonprofits in the US are the holding, whatever you call them, units, Fidelity, Fidelity and Schwab, and right. And those are actually 501c3s in and of themselves, something like that, right? And they're actually kind of among the top 5 every year for dollars. No, so it's huge.
Yeah,
This is huge. Why? Okay, so I mean, really weird. You're obviously super accomplished. You could obviously go in a ton of different directions in tech. Why did you guys decide to take this lane of let's fix the world of DAFs and nonprofits and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Aaron and I and a couple other of our friends have a principle where we donate 10% of our income to charity. And we've always kept track of that using like Excel sheets that we've shared with each other, which is really funny. And it was about 2 years ago now where we had the idea, like, why don't we just open a separate checking account? Our income, 10% of our income will go to that checking account, and we'll use the debit card that account comes with to make all our donations with. So that way we can see like what our total balance is left to give and keep track of all our donations in one place. And we decided to build an app for that. And we called that app My 10%, which was like a passion project we did 2 years ago. What turns out is that we were basically building a donor advised fund, but without any of the tax properties, because it was just a checking account. So when we learned about donor advised funds and we learned about like there's all their cool attributes, we're like, can we improve sort of the experience of having one to make payments very easy and seamless? And that's how we sort of got to Chariot and decided to focus on this idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for everybody who's here with us, do you get lots of gifts from DAFs? Do you count them? So I've been working with a fair number of nonprofits, both as a staff member and as an advisor. And, a lot of the time, Like you really have to look. Like people aren't really aware. Like inside the nonprofit, it's hard to quantify. It's not recorded correctly in the database. So you said, okay, let's start to make this easier for ourselves. No.
Mhm.
What did you start to see when you explored this world?
Yeah, what we learned was that if you have a donor advised fund today as a user, and you go to a nonprofit's website, there's no clear way of how to donate, right? You can donate in 3 steps with a credit card. You can do that with PayPal. But if you had a donor advised fund, you would have to leave the nonprofit's website. You would have to log in. You would have to find the nonprofit by their EIN number, fill out a long form. And everyone in payments knows that every step you add to a process, the less likely someone is to follow through. And so we said, there's definitely a way we can make this as easy as paying with a credit card. And we looked into the infrastructure, into like how the sort of system was built. And we realized we can build like an infrastructure company to allow payments in 3 simple steps, right?
Okay, so what Chariot does, it's on the nonprofit side, it helps donors give quicker, easier, more seamlessly. Okay, Casey has a question here for us. How do you research DAF prospects? Most of them are managed by community foundations that do not share any information regarding affinities. And this may be a little bit of a kind of a nuance here where you're not, this isn't a substitute for the relationship building with the donor, discovering what like the regular kind of fundraising, there's no magic here. The magic is in, well, now there's a donor. We finally got them to want to give to something. Let's not make it harder on them. No, is that kind of it?
Yeah, I'll also add that we do take the mystery out of DAF gifts that are received from Chariot. And the way we do that is because when we create that button on the nonprofit's website, when a donor is going to check out and they fill in their information the same way they do with their credit card or with PayPal or any other donation form there. So you can track that donation to see, oh, I know that John Doe gave from Fidelity Charitable and this is his email. And right away, you can thank that person for their gift. So to answer your question, there is information that you're gathering there as well.
Okay, so that I presume, Casey, tell us if that's a selling point for you, because for lots of that's a big thing for lots of the third-party fundraising that happens for, and this isn't at the same level, but like Facebook fundraising. It's not so great for nonprofits because you didn't get really good data. And if you guys are facilitating that, that's pretty huge because, well, the money's in the data, we know, right? Awesome. Okay. So my sense is that there are, like Casey said, there are a gazillion number of community funds. There's the big ones, but also there's really easy apps now where you can start your own DAF almost with, I don't know if there's a minimum anymore. Okay. So then, so this isn't like we're going to help with nonprofit support for credit cards. It's very complicated. How did you even start to think about this?
Yeah. So Sal, you want to take that one?
Yeah, of course. So the donor advised fund market, there's around 976 different providers, right? Like you said, there's the commercial ones like Fidelity, Schwab, there's the community ones, and then there's like more technology focused ones that just are starting to spring up, like mobile apps, how you mentioned. So right now we support, we're fully integrated, I would say, with around 55% of the market. So that includes Fidelity Charitable, Charles Schwab, National Philanthropic Trust, DAFI, Charity Vest, and we're looking to go live with a couple more to get us to 70% of full integration. But we also have a flow where if you come from a donor advised fund that we don't fully integrate with, we give you step-by-step instructions on how to complete the donation, and we record that for record-keeping purposes for the nonprofit so that they also get that first name, last name, email of that donor.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I mean, you make it sound easy, but I know it's anything but. So what are you finding? Like nonprofits that are actually implementing this? I know lots of these things sometimes conceptually sound good, but then in the real world, it looks different. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I'll say is it's helping a lot of nonprofits engage new donors that they didn't know necessarily had a DAF. So a lot of donors maybe would come to a website to make credit card donations because they're simple and easy. But now that they see this new option to pay with the donor advised fund there, they actually had no idea that this donor had a DAF. They thought this donor was just a credit card donor. So for existing donors, it can be helpful for that. And that's obviously very useful because now they have means to give, and also they think about giving very critically, right? They're a DAF user. They're someone who gives almost proactively. Additionally, it's also obviously very helpful for giving through campaigns is what we found. Right now, there's no way really to give to a nonprofit any type of campaign or fundraiser that you're raising with your donor advised fund. But many nonprofits who implement this on their button now allow for DAF donations on campaigns. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you said implements in a, like, what does this look like in practice? Is it like one extra button? Because another thing that happens in nonprofits, complexity just kind of piles up, and there's planned giving, and how do you guys make it easy in that sense?
Yeah, if it's helpful, we can give a demo.
Okay,
exactly
perfect.
how it works. So I'll share my screen here.
Okay, I'll put it up.
So let me know when you can see my.
Going, gone.
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So this is the JCC of Palo Alto, and this is one of the nonprofits that works with Chariot. So after they register with Chariot, which was completely free to get started, and you can register in like 5 minutes, we give you a URL that you can embed on your website. So as you see here, the JCC embedded a new payment option called Donor Advised Fund, and that points them to a page that Chariot hosts for the JCC. And that way, there's very little technical work that the JCC need to do. All they need to do is add that URL to their website. Now, when you get here, this is the Chariot product. You can select which donor advised fund you come from. You see here, with a search tool, you can search for all the 976 providers that exist. So I have one with Charity Vest. So I would choose that donor advised fund. Then I would log in.
Amazing. Okay, so this is, I think it's a big difference, and it may reply in part to Anne's question in the chat. And hi, Anne, which is, how does it differ from other DAF tools? Here, you're actually directly connecting to your DAF without needing to go into some other website. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm verifying my credentials. They asked me for a 2-factor authentication code. And now I see here that I have $276 in my balance. I want to, let's say, make a $20 donation to the JCC. I'll continue.
And one thing just you'll notice on that page before is because we have a account balance, we actually anchor the donor based on that account balance. So for Salo, that was like an $130 donation, even though he didn't put in a donation amount yet. And that way we've seen boosts in larger donations, right? Because like the goal that we're really trying is to get to DAF zero. There's $234 billion sitting in DAFs, and we want to really kind of move that money to working nonprofits that need it.
I love this. This is kind of like my consulting, where my goal is to put myself out of business. So great mission. Okay, now that we have the CEO and the COO, I'm going to ask the hard questions that folks in our community are asking. How does Chariot differ from DAF Direct? Another one. How are you different than the DAF widget by MarketSmart?
Yeah, these are all great questions. So those DAF widgets, what they do is that they redirect you to your Fidelity charitable login, and then you have to log in Fidelity Charitable and make your donation there. And the nonprofit has no visibility as to whether the donor actually completed the donation. And many times that donor will drop off because they have to go through that same 20-step process. As I showed here, once I click finish, my donation is complete. We're actually in our backend sending a request to the donor advised fund. And then once this process completes, the donation is complete. It is on its way to you. The donor doesn't need to do any more work. On the dashboard that we give nonprofits, they'll be able to see that this donation is on its way. And so all record keeping donation processes are automated, which the other DAF widget tools do not do.
Salo, did you just make a gift to JCC?
I did. That is a real $20 gift.
We could actually show in Charity Vest if you want to go back to show your accounts off.
Yeah. Let me go back there.
I'll pull it up and I'll pull it back on the screen.
But to kind of recap kind of the differences, the first is really around time to donate. So with DAF Direct and DAF Widget, it takes several minutes. With Chariot, it can take like 10 seconds. The second thing is the ability to track those DAF donations and collect that donor information, which you weren't able to do. And then the third thing that Chariot does is we really try to boost DAF donations, right? That last step of the flow is all about anchoring the donor at a higher donation amount based on their account balance, which neither DAF Direct nor DAF Widget do.
Yeah, and so you'll see here, this is my donor advice fund portal. A donation of $21 was made. I can see that it was initiated by Chariot, and it has an ID 12694, so that when the nonprofit receives the check from Charity Vest, they'll be able to match up this ID with the one we give them on our dashboard to see that, to mark that check as received. So if you want, I can also show what
Oops, sorry. There we go. You're back. Sorry, my bad.
I was gonna say we lost Salah. He's gone.
Yeah, that's sort of like a flow from the user's perspective of how Chariot works. I can also show from the nonprofit side that dashboard accounting.
Hey, do that, because I was just going to say that the data piece is, to me, a big differentiator.
Yep.
And I have some unsolicited advice is that don't do too many of these webinars. Your guys are going to go bankrupt if you keep making like it.
It's part of our 10% goal, so it doesn't. Okay. It's not too bad.
So, folks who are here, how easy was that? Again, this is not a sales webinar. I'm just excited about it because the potential looks amazing. I haven't had the fortune to work with a nonprofit that had Chariot yet, but I sure am looking forward to it.
So you'll see here. Once I'm signed in to my dashboard, the nonprofit.
Sorry, I don't think we can see your screen.
Going. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There we go. Yep.
So once a nonprofit logs into their dashboard, they'll be able to see like a link that they can embed to their website. If they want to embed an iframe, we also support that feature. We also generate QR codes in case you're doing live events and you want people to be able to pay with their donor advice fund. You can download that there. But as we mentioned, under the transactions tab is where you'll see all the donations that people have made to your institution with their donor advice fund. So this is an example. You would get their first name, their last name, their email, which provider it came from, the amount, and that ID, so that when the check comes in the mail, you can mark this as resolved. Like this. And that's simple.
Awesome. So let's try to get a good understanding of who's on the call. What is your role? Are you involved in gift processing, the advancement services, or whatever that's called for you? Are you a frontline fundraiser, a planned giving fundraiser? What is that? That would be, I think, super helpful to kind of know who we have here. And Mark from Fundmetric, you guys are integrating? It's coming to Fundmetric. That sounds like fun. Absolutely great. So, okay, let's talk integrations. Another thing that happens, okay, yes, you can add one more button, but sometimes it's easier just when it integrates into the checkout experience that already exists. And again, to make it even, there are a gazillion providers, right, of that. How are you trying to solve for that in any way?
Yeah, so we actually work with fundraising platforms. The link that Salo showed you kind of is an easy way to get started if you're not part of one of the fundraising platforms we already work with. But we're going to be launching with a bunch of fundraising platforms in the months to come. We already launched with GiveButter and Every.org, and we're also launching with, I think, a few more in the coming months, which is exciting. And so you can get started kind of with the Chariot link that Salo showed you right away if you're not, but we also want to make it able to integrate into your full system that you already have.
Okay, so I put the link up on, oh, Salo, do you have a comment?
No comment.
So I put the link up for everybody to check out and learn more. At the very least, it sounds super promising and it could be transformational. Are always insightful. And Kolakowski is asking, how much does it cost? Flat fee, transaction based? What's your model?
Yeah, so we charge a transaction fee approach. So 2.9%, just like credit cards, for donations that we initiate for you. We don't charge any other fees. So there's no monthly subscriptions, there's no startup costs. And the best part is that for a limited time, we're offering nonprofits who register $1,500 free dollars in donation volume.
So they can try it out.
Yeah.
Additionally,
So
we also have donor covered fees. I know Saladin mentioned that, but that's the other thing that we offer, which is the ability for the donor to cover the fee. So hopefully, our hope is really the Chariot product is completely free for nonprofits that we work with.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this. It's costs approximately the same as any credit card processing fee, right? And it's not on top of that because it's not a credit card processing moment.
Exactly.
Okay. So it makes so much sense. What is your goal? I mean, really, like, okay, you're going to empty up all the DAFs in the world, then Fidelity is going to be very angry with you. What would you like to see, like, as the outcome of all of this?
You know, it's incredible. So when we were building that passion project, like a couple of years ago, we realized that when people set aside their charitable dollars first, the way they interact with charity completely changes, right? They no longer see charity as like an expense, like, oh, you're asking me to donate $100 and I have to take it from like my personal savings. They start seeing a charity as like an investment. I set aside $10,000 a year and I want to make the most impact with it. And donor advised funds are the perfect vehicle for people to be proactive in their giving and set it aside first. But our goal is to make them like wide stream adopted. Like Aaron and I always say, we want to make donor advised funds as popular as 401ks. We want everyone to have one. And I think a very important step for us to get there is to make the payment experience seamless, to allow people to donate to campaigns, to allow people to one-click checkout. And so our goal is really to democratize, to continue to make donor advised funds popular because we think they're effective change agents to make this world a better place. And we're tackling one of those building blocks for that grander mission.
Yeah. And to add on a little more, I also think we see value for every stakeholder. Like on the nonprofit side, we see this as an ability to unlock and gain access to this large growing pool of $234 billion in DAF assets. You could also now track your DAF donations and also you can cultivate those DAF donor relationships. And that's just the nonprofit side. Then there's the donor side, which is the ability to make those quick grants, donate at the point of inspiration, give to fundraisers and campaigns. And then there's even the DAF side. Like we see this as a real promotion of acquiring more DAF donors, right? You're now having this DAF payment option where people can learn about donor advised funds and open one up. And that's what Salah was kind of mentioning about the idea that we think proactive giving is really the best form of giving. And it's something we think when people start to identify as givers and give proactively, the world just becomes a better place. So.
Beautiful. Where are you guys in your timeline? So how long ago since you launched? How many clients do you have? Who are you currently? Or how many nonprofits are you serving? How does that look? How close are you to world domination?
So we launched actually in January, so pretty recently, at the start of the new year. And we already have 250 nonprofits signed up, which is really exciting. And we are continuing to add more nonprofits every day, and also like we mentioned before, fundraising platforms as well, and also DAFs. So it's kind of like this whole two-sided market that we're trying to continue to enable.
Wow. Well, I'm super excited. You're always welcome and invited, and we'd love to hear about your progress in this little fundraising group that we have going, the Donor Participation Project. I kind of love playing with technology, and I saw that Restream has this fancy thing that will put a QR code on the screen. I didn't know, Salo, it would go over your face. Let me move it somewhere. Oh my goodness. Well, there we go. So folks, if you have a cell phone and you want to play around, I don't know if this works, that will just take you to our website. But we invite everybody who likes to hear about these things, who wants to be in touch with people like Sarah and Aaron, to check us out. And we'll just follow you. Maybe we have you back in a year or something like that, and see how far you've come. It would be exciting. Thanks both.
Sounds great. Great to talk. Thank you for having us.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.